Hello, everybody, and welcome to Multifamily Chronicles Live. This is the second live event. Something unexpected happened. Our guest, Stephanie Anderson, couldn't make it today. So we have another host that graciously accepted the challenge. Within like 50 minutes, he was able to drop everything off and join us. Welcome to the show, Evan.
Thanks for having me, Adrian.
Evan, to begin with, I like to begin with introductions, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself, about where you are currently, what you're doing, and I like to hear about your podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the industry, multifamily, in one way or another since 2009. I started really as essentially a volunteer on-site event coordinator, and I got exposure to all things on-site. Worked really closely with the leasing agents and community managers, maintenance people, and also just all the residents, kind of being a bridge between everybody on site. So it was a really fun first exposure to the industry. I wasn't paid by the company that we were working for necessarily, but it was a great opportunity to really get to know people on a personal level and understand their jobs. From there, I actually moved up in that same organization, went on to lead it as a regional organization up here in the Northwest, where I'm located in Seattle. And then we joined a national organization about 2 years into me leading that one. So I got a lot of national understanding of the industry by joining that. You may know it's called Apartment Life. And so I, for 2 more years, led a region in the Northwest for them, and then decided, I want to try my hand at something new. And I jumped in to a role with where I'm at now, which is called Community Boss. Some people may know it as Parking Boss. And we provide solutions for the industry when it comes to really managing the physical aspects of the community, parking, amenities, and mapping. We can cover all that. And then we can even generate some revenue and extra value for communities as well. But my role is as the marketing director for Community Boss. And mid last year, I decided I would try my hand at live streaming and podcasting, and which is what was created with Boss Talks. And it's been a really fun and engaging, and it's a live show as well, but broadcasted to anyone that wants to watch on LinkedIn and other platforms. And again, participatory, people can ask questions and things like that. And my whole goal with that one is to elevate all the people in the industry, giving them a platform and a place to speak about their role, whether that's as a maintenance person on site, community manager, leasing agent, marketing professional, and even a sprinkling of vendors as well. So it's been really great to hear the perspectives across the industry.
Our industry, it's a very large family. We're all helping each other. We're all supporting each other, whether on a operation side, on a vendor side. I do think, though, that it's something that we're missing as an industry is sufficiently advertising outside of the industry, the wonderful careers that are possible if people, have an interest in a career, any type of career, whether it's management, marketing, maintenance. What are some things that you say that we could do better as an industry to do outreach outside of our just family to get new blood in? I mean, we all know the staff shortages are pretty challenging for everybody.
Yeah.
What can we do better to bring new talent in, because we're needing it so much?
Right. Well, it's fun. I don't have direct, I guess, experience with this side of things, except for vicariously living through my guests. And what I hear from a lot of people who are being very, I guess, trying to think outside the box and try different ways of combating these issues of labor shortages, I find that they're looking at, they'll go into if it's like a leasing agent position, they'll go into a bar or a restaurant or even a grocery store, and their interaction, if pleasant, with somebody that's working there, they'll actually say to that person working, hey, have you ever thought of working in multifamily and leasing apartments? And most people will say no, because they don't even think of that as a job, right? But I've heard of a lot of people, just by paying attention to people that are really good at customer service and having a good presence when it comes to interacting with them, that they just extend the opportunity at least to interview and pursue a role just based on their interaction.
We have the first hand that's raised. Colleen, do you want to go on?
Yeah. I just wanted to add to what you're saying, Evan. What you're doing, doing the podcast, making awareness and getting people excited about the multifamily is what's going to bring new people to our industry, get them excited, get a new career. I know firsthand my experience. My husband, he's pretty new into multifamily. He's a punch tech. Only been in the industry for about a year and a half. Started off as a groundskeeper. He came from the restaurant industry during COVID times when it was a struggle there, and it was a time to start a new career. And there's a lot of people in the service industry that are struggling right now, and there's an opportunity to get some really good qualified people. So I think awareness, what you're doing, is getting people excited about this job that a lot of people just don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we can hear from more people across the industry, obviously there's some people that are also burnt out and they're leaving, and for whatever reason, maybe they've had a bad experience or whatever it is. But I think bringing awareness, there's so many communities and so many companies. And so I think some people forget that there's other opportunities across the industry. You don't have to stay with that company if it's not a good company. I mean, let's just be frank. Like, there is enough opportunity out there to just move on to somewhere else.
Not only that, but I say, you don't have to stick with just one type of career.
Right.
And I started in the industry as a groundskeeper, picking up trash, move my way up to, punch, to tech, service manager, maintenance director. Now I'm doing podcast, I'm doing, other things like technology. There's just so much opportunity out there. If you want to explore it, it doesn't have to be just like a linear path. It could
Right.
be a lateral move. It could be a totally something totally different. I think the opportunities are really within the industry. What we're not doing a great job at is actually advertising and selling it. I say, before we even go outside the industry, to our own people, to make it very public to them. Just make the information available to them that there's more than one way to skin the cat when it comes to career moves. Like, it's not just a single path. Okay, I'm a leasing agent. I could be like a regional VP of operation. You could branch into marketing. You could become a marketing director. There's just so many opportunities. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everybody I talk to on my show, they have a career trajectory that's varying, right? Some people, they were in the industry on the property management side for 30 years or 20 years. And then, you know what? I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go to the vendor side and try my hand at that. Some go on that side, stay for a year, and then go back to property management, but in a different role. So I think we need to view like it more of a ecosystem of available labor pool and whatnot, and learn from one another on all sides, both vendor and property management, and also view it as opportunities to work in all the different sectors, because I just think it literally is a multifamily, right? And as I talk to more and more people, like, you might be in a job and it's just not challenging anymore because you've just done it forever. And it's like, okay, well, let's let's try being on the vendor side. And you have so much knowledge about being on site and working in that capacity that you could translate that to be customer success or a salesperson or marketing for, on the side for a vendor.
You're making a great point out there, and I just want to share some personal experience. A couple of weeks ago, like literally 2 weeks ago today, I was laid off, and I had many opportunities presented to me since, and some of them had nothing to do with my previous titles, what I've done for a living previously. So I actually had tech companies that reached out and they were very interested in a partnership, whether a career like, working for them full time or just consulting, because someone with my background could be of, significant help to someone that develops an app that actually maintenance personnel is going to use. So there's that type of opportunity out there too. Not to say that, I don't consider myself special in any way. The reality is it's available for everybody. Like if you're good with technology and you could articulate, like you could play with an app and say, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, that could be an opportunity for you. The opportunities are real. You just have to keep an open mind and just look around, and it's an abundance of opportunities. I don't think that in our lifetime we had this type of level of opportunity that we have today. It's unprecedented. Like everywhere around there's opportunity. If anyone here disagrees with me, I'd like to hear your take on that.
No, I agree. You and what you've done is leveraged different tools, whether that's streaming or podcasting or even just LinkedIn, right? You put a plea out there, hey, this is what's happened, and people responded. And I think by and large, especially if people have gotten to know you in some capacity as they interact with you, they want to be helpful, right? People aren't by and large out for people to fail, right? They want to see people succeed and they want to have a hand in helping that. So I think the more people see, and I think it's an opportunity to share with the industry as a whole, things like LinkedIn, because I still think people view it as this resume that's just online. They don't realize that it's so much more, and there's so much more opportunity to sell your own brand and like share with people your value. And then by doing so, you're helping your current employer, but you're also helping yourself.
Yeah, I would like to touch on the personal branding topic just a little bit later. I saw a very interesting comment for Dana. So Dana, if you're feeling comfortable unmuting, we have one more person before you. I'd like for you to share with us your career path. Would you like to go on right now? Because you just typed out a very interesting comment. Your career path was, it was different. So just share with us, please. And welcome.
Thank you. Sure. My path was different. So of course I fell into the industry like most of us have. I started as leasing assistant property manager, and then I went to the vendor side and did sales, executive sales. So once I got to Zumper from another vendor company that I worked at previously, I was working in a sales capacity. They hired me here to be the regional account executive for the state of Virginia. Well, when George Floyd was murdered, something in me was just ignited, and I started to do work that formed our Black Lives Matter employee resource group. And in doing so, I started to support our other employee resource groups with our LGBTQ, our women's, and starting an Asian ERG. So through that, I really kind of worked myself out of my sales role and into a role in HR where I support our employees. I'm still a brand and still selling, but now it's all about employee engagement and inclusivity and diversity and equity. So I would have never imagined that, oh, sorry, that's my golden doodle. I would have never imagined that starting as a leasing agent, I would work my way into a people operations space doing the work that I'm doing. Multifamily is multifaceted, and really just like any other industry, there's so many different lanes that people can take. And it's really our job to start to promote those things and to show people, especially the younger generation, like you can go into multifamily and it can propel you into any space.
Yeah, that's a wonderful message, and just another example of someone that build their own career. They didn't have to follow a certain path. So thank you so much for sharing. We have Jewel with her hand up. Jewel, do you want to go next? You're muted.
Oh, yes. Can you see me? I didn't think I accepted the.
We cannot, but let me see. I think you're a panelist, so you just have to turn your camera on.
Okay, I thought
Right.
it was on, but well, what I wanted to comment on to Evan, looking for different kinds of people to educate them on multifamily. One area that I found was helpful, I had done this. I went to the schools, and when they are teaching classes about, how to, I forget what the name of the classes are called, that, it's like the home ec, where you talk to them about your experience in renting an apartment. You educate them on renting an apartment, but then you can also tell them that you're doing, property management. And then they ask you questions about that and say, hey, what does that entail? And that's, that sparks some people's, like, hey, I can make that part of my career. And on the next topic was, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I got to a certain point that, I was getting burned out, and bad company, so I took some time off, and I re-entered the workforce in multifamily, but more on the support platform. So I'm learning business systems and integrations like with Yardi. So it's a whole new world for me, but I feel like I'm helping the next generation to support them and to help them along, not only on the system side, but on the operations side. So thought I'd throw that out there. I've had to make some changes because it was affecting my health and all that kind of stuff.
Well, did anyone have any trouble logging in when you first sign up to join us live? Because I got a message from someone saying that they're asked for a passcode. Did you have any trouble signing in?
No.
No. Okay. Jana, you're next.
Yes. So I wanted to comment about the career possibilities. And I've always loved seeing that within the industry. I've seen people take so many different career paths once they're in the industry. With very few exceptions, I think that begins when somebody starts as a leasing consultant or a groundskeeper, and then the possibilities are immense. And I see the value of starting in those roles and learning the industry from those roles. But I think that perhaps an area for multifamily to consider is bringing people in from other industries into other levels, right? So you might have somebody who's maybe midway into a career in another industry, and they'd be great for multifamily, but starting as a leasing consultant or groundskeeper is not the right place for them to start where they are in their career. And that is an area where I think multifamily could improve. But any thoughts on that?
I think you're muted again, Evan. It might be a situation where your mic switched again.
Hey, Adrian, while Evan's getting his technology squared away, I can kind of speak to what Janet was referring to. I'm not a person in multifamily that came from the the entry level side of it and worked my way through. I actually am the transplant. So I started my career as an applications programmer. I was writing code and worked for a large food service company. They were a Fortune 500 company. And I was recruited into multifamily because I worked for my initial company was Insignia Financial Group, and they had a pretty big technology department, but they were trying to get someone to come in that had experience writing code that could help them write a property management software system. So this was back in the mid 90s. So I had an opportunity to join multifamily in a technology capacity as a coder, so to speak, and worked my way from there into the operations side of things, and eventually became the chief operating officer for a couple of companies. So there are successes out there. I'm not saying I'm the greatest or anything like that. I'm just saying there are opportunities. So if someone's coming in from outside the industry, you can learn property management. And I can also be one to say that after coming in, there's no way I'd go anywhere else because it's such a great industry to be in. I'm on the supplier side of things now, but I'm still part of multifamily. So very happy to have had the opportunity to get introduced in kind of an odd way. So I was in operations to begin with, but over time, I was able to work my way through, continue to prove myself, and everybody out there has that same opportunity. So I encourage anybody who's thinking about multifamily or has been in it for a bit and would like to explore other avenues. There are avenues and other kind of routes to go to get to where you want to be long term.
Oh, that's great, Ken. That's great. I'm glad to see a transplant. Great.
Yeah. Just another powerful story. I could tell you a dozen stories right here of, groundskeeper that ended up being, president of a company that's managing 50,000 multifamily units. I could tell you about a leasing agent that, never went to college, to the regular, 4-year college. And she's the CEO of a company today. Like, I know those people personally. I work with them. I worked at the same companies with them. And I have countless examples of that I know of people just like that made an amazing career for themselves. They didn't think about, hey, I'm hearing this all the time. I'm just a maintenance guy. Well, I am a maintenance guy, but also I think of myself that I'm a lot more than just a maintenance guy. Whenever you say I'm just a leasing agent, I'm just a maintenance person, you basically limit yourself from the opportunities that are out there. So if you're gonna, from the start, you're thinking like this about yourself, you can't really expect from the others around you to elevate you higher, because that chances are that's not gonna happen. First of all, you have to have the confidence to say, I know who I am, I know what I bring to the table, and never really had this frame of mind of, I'm just a leasing agent, because you're so much more than that. The next topic that I want to touch on is the labor shortages. We discussed a little bit at the beginning, but Jana, would you like to chime in a little bit? You have a lot of experience with this, right? With the challenges, and I'd like to hear your take on it. Like, what got us into the current situation, and then where do you think we're going from here? How do we improve this? How do we make this better? How do we overcome challenges?
Yeah. It's tough, but I'll tell you, I've been in multifamily myself for about 20 years now, and I did start as a recruiter, is how I started in the industry, and I can tell you that the challenges in finding maintenance has been difficult throughout all the different economic cycles of the past 20 years. That is a challenge that is not new. What is new is maybe the challenges on the leasing side, or in some other roles. And I think that the conversations that we had earlier about promoting the industry, showing what the possibilities are, I think that's more important than ever, is showing the possibilities, because it is so great within this industry, and telling those stories. And I think that there's always room to do more of that storytelling. And then that helps with our recruiting for each company, and I think as an industry. And then to my last point is that I think maybe a little bit more flexibility might be needed on different types of backgrounds. Now more than ever, given that we do have a shortage of, maybe we don't need somebody that has the exact experience that we typically look for. Maybe we can be a little bit more flexible and look at, core skills and a person's ability versus experience.
Yeah, I think you're making an amazing point right there, Jenna. Don't try to look at checking some boxes and try to fit your candidates in a box. Think outside the box, right? See what else they bring to the table. Maybe build a job for them based on their abilities. Their abilities might be outside of a job that you might be recruiting for, but then build that type of job so they could utilize their abilities for the benefit of them and also your company. Do you disagree?
Agree. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Trey, we have a question. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question, sir?
Yeah, thanks. As a vendor, and only a vendor, never have been in multifamily, I've been watching, the experiences of people. Back in 2011, I was on, roofs, doing roof repair, on inspecting roofs and things of that nature. And I got out of it in 2012. Well, I came back in 2015, 16, 17, and the same people are in higher positions than they started in. And I thought that was an interesting point to what y'all were talking about earlier, is that it seems like if you do start in leasing, you end up moving up the ladder, but you stay in the environment, in the family. I think that's a really interesting observation, just to see that happening, because you don't see that necessarily in other industries. But what I wanted to ask a question about is looking at the COVID brought about a lot of changes in the which I guess they call blue collar environment, and the lower white collar environment, as far as people deciding to move to gig economy type environment versus actually being employed. A lot of people are starting their own businesses or doing their own thing. And we, as a maintenance company, work, with people who are in that environment. And it seems like a lot of people have left the job market to go and do their own thing. And I'm curious, it seems to me there's a shift occurring in that in the industry itself, that there's the old idea of hiring somebody, and moving them up the ladder in the business through maintenance is not necessarily where people are wanting to go anymore. That this new generation of people are wanting more freedom to go do what they want to do and work on project oriented type stuff versus actual employment type stuff. And I've talked to a number of executives around the country some are seeing this, some haven't quite seen it yet, but it seems like there's a shift that is occurring, that this is what the new normal is, that the old normal is not coming back. It's not there anymore. And I'm curious if are y'all seeing that same thing happen, and what is the approach from the site perspective on this change? Because I don't think we're going back to where we used to be.
I'm gonna respond to that, and if somebody else has a question, an answer for Trey, by all means just raise your hand, we'll take you next. So I do agree with you that we're not going back to the old normal. So people want more freedom, more flexibility. And one way to create this flexibility is for them, let's say they are currently a maintenance technician, right? They're going on a vendor site. How do they go on a vendor site? They go to work for a vendor. What type of vendor? A vendor that offers maintenance related services, whether it's turnkey or actually work order completion. So they're coming back in an industry. They're actually not leaving the industry, but they make their own schedule. Vendor, let's say that they have a performant a very good platform to dispatch people based on their availability, these individuals could sign up on that platform and come as a subcontractor, as a vendor for the industry, and just go work, make their own schedule. If they want to make money today, or they feel like doing work today, they could just sign up and see what's available, get those jobs done, do a couple of punches, go back home. Maybe they just want to work half a day, and if they choose not to work, they just don't work. I travel a lot last year around the country, and I've been speaking with a lot of Uber drivers, especially. I've done a lot of Uber, and not a single one that I spoke with had any type of interest in pursuing a full-time job anytime soon, at least for the time being. They're extremely happy with having the flexibility, having that availability that ability to flip the switch on and off when they want to work and when they don't want to work, and they don't want to give that away. So we as an industry, we're up against that. I'm not even starting to talk about trades and other businesses that are taking our people, especially maintenance people, but then the gig economy is real and it's out there, and that is a real option for people, offers a lot of flexibility. So I do agree with you 100%. I think that's going to be, it's happening. It's just going to happen more and more and more. And because companies can't restaff at least 70–80% of capacity, they're going to have to outsource more work, and they will be using the same individuals that they used to work for them as full-time. Jana, you're next. I see that you have the hand raised. Please.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about the flexibility that people are seeking.
Please do.
And obviously that's absolutely true. People will continue to prioritize that flexibility, and that's really tough on site, right? It's really tough. But I think that there's a few things that can be done, even though we can't, and on site can't offer the same type of flexibility, but there's a few things that I see that can be done. So for example, sometimes there's policies of a person can't take more than 1 week of vacation at a time, right? And that's, and then that proves to be challenging in some situations for people. Maybe they're traveling halfway around the world to see their family. 1 week is tough, right? Or certain family situations or events or things like that. And that's one area of just having more flexibility really could make a difference and make somebody not want to go into a fully flexible role. Or things like their working hours. Why can't one person work 8 to 5 or 7 to 4 and the other one work 9 to 6? Why not? Why does everybody have to work 8 to 5? Can you shift those and allow people that kind of flexibility? Or maybe one day it's 7 to 4 and the next day it's 9 to 6. Yeah, a little bit more, work might need to be done on the scheduling, but is that not worth it to keep your really good people? Or allow the team to swap the on-call responsibilities. I know sometimes that's not even allowed for them to, swap their days without a lunch, things like that, of just finding little ways to provide some flexibility while still maintaining the staff to run the property, I think might be key.
I think you just named those ways, so they exist. Like that's a well-known fact. I think the challenge that we have as an industry is the fact that people at the very top that make those decisions, right? Because they're not made at the site level, to where a community manager is empowered to say, okay, we're gonna do different schedules, we accommodate everybody, and we're gonna have 14 hours a day coverage. Someone starts at 7 a.m., they're picking up trash, get the pool ready, by 9 o'clock we're ready to open. Then the next person comes in at 8, and then we have another person at 9 or 10, and the on-call person starts at noon, and they work 12 to 8. They don't have that type of flexibility. They had to play within a sandbox. The corporate tells them exactly, like, these are the rules, like these are your schedules. Don't go outside of this box. And that's mainly because people at the very top, they're typically been in those positions or in an industry back in the day when they used to interview as candidates. Things happen a different way. And it's very hard for them to understand what's happening today because they're not on the other side. They're on the side of the employer, and they're living with the impression that things are still happening like back in a day when they used to be candidates. So I think that is the biggest challenge. Evan, would you like to weigh in on this? Do you agree?
Yeah. Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. No, I think it's totally true. And I think when you sit back and look at the conversation, people that are a little older and been in their career a long time, whether they are, the top person of a company or even a little bit, lower, like VP level or whatever, if they've been in it for a long time, like you're saying, from my observation, the typical response is to just place blame and name call the other generations as they don't want to work, or there's a lack of wanting to understand how they are motivated. It's like, nope, they just don't want to work. And I don't think that's true. I just think they don't want to work how you want them to work. And
I couldn't say it better.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, continue, please.
Yeah, I just think it's again what you're saying, the whole idea of having a mentality in your head and not paying attention that things change, and they always have changed. Like the way things were when those people that were on site operated, well, it wasn't like how they were operating like that 20 years before them. So we just have to have more of a mentality of we have to be paying attention and adjust ourselves to current culture.
I couldn't agree more. I do wanted to add something. So I'm guilty of that type of thinking. I used to be very guilty of that type of thinking. I thought that I knew exactly what was going on. And I had to go through some wake-up calls to where I was trying certain things and they wouldn't work really, only because I was wrong. Like my assumptions about what people think were wrong. So what I tried doing and what I started doing, probably most of you that are connected with me on LinkedIn are noticing, is start doing polls on LinkedIn. And I do a lot of polls. I do probably 2, 3, 4 polls every single week. And I ask questions. And why do I ask questions? The answer is simple. One person's opinion, which is mine, it's not as important if I have 300 people telling me that it's different. Well, it might be important to me, but if I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid or I smoke my own product, I don't think that it gets me too far. Again, I learned this the hard way, and then I learned to do better. The way to do better is to go to my network and just ask the question, what do you think about this? And a lot of times I'm surprised because I'm making certain assumptions that are differently than what my polls are saying. And not to say that I lead my life based on polls. A lot of times, I have a strong opinion. I still try a different path than what the polls are telling me, but I still like to know what the majority of people thinks. I think that's very important to put your decision in context, because 300 people's opinion beat the heck out of just one person's opinion, which is mine or either one of us right here on this call.
Mm-hmm.
Disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't. That's where you're going to fall short in finding people that want to work for you in a job. If you're like, this is the way we do it. And you can't beat your head against the wall and say, wow, nobody wants to work. If it is a weird dynamic right now, because I keep hearing nobody wants to work, but it's like, then what are they doing? They're doing something.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Yes.
right. And my simple answer when I hear someone saying that people don't want to work, I know it sounds it could sound kind of harsh, right? But maybe people don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
And it might not be your fault, you as a person, because you don't pick the cards, right? You're playing the cards you're dealt with. Management tells you like this is 9 to 6 job. He pays $15 an hour. You got an HVAC guy that has to be super qualified. They're gonna have to be able to troubleshoot. Well, that doesn't translate into reality. So if you don't have the tools to actually offer a competitive pay and benefits to the person and maybe a flexibility in schedule, well, good luck with that. People are not gonna come knock on your door. That's just not gonna happen. So it's not necessarily the person's fault. But I'm saying this because I want them to put things into perspective and say, hey, maybe you don't have the right type of product that you're going to the market with, the right type of opportunity. That's the reason why people are not attracted, and you keep having those, job vacancies for the longest. Colleen, you had a very interesting comment right there. Would you like to go live? And
yeah.
just
What I mean by my comment, that we do need to appeal to a different generation, get people excited, passionate about their jobs, have a reason behind showing up early, putting long hours, taking the lower entry level position, see the bigger picture of it. And it's hard to see, maybe because there's not enough stories of the success out there. We're not talking about it. And that goes back to why I believe having these conversations and podcasts and putting it out there on social media and showing, what fun we're having and what awesome paths, all sorts of different paths. It'll appeal to people to look more into these roles. Another big thing, I think companies need to be on these platforms, also talking about their culture and really, showing the culture, not just words, just actually putting into action what they're selling. And that's going to, again, showcase our multifamily and get people wanting to work for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now I want to flip sides a little bit and look at this from a candidate perspective, right? I've been a candidate myself for a short while, just 2 weeks ago, and there are still challenges out there, significant challenges. And when anybody as a candidate goes on a market and they're looking for opportunity, it seems that the most common experience is that it's hard. It's hard to get people to respond to an application. It's hard to get an interview secured. Once you have an interview, it's very hard to get a follow-up. Sometimes you're out there waiting. You don't even know, did I make it to the next interview? Did I not make it? What am I doing next? Like, am I still waiting? I had experience where actually personal experience, I could share this with all of you. While I expected to be laid off, I reached out to a couple of companies and I've applied. And one of them took probably, I wanted to say like about 3 weeks to just respond and schedule an interview with me. This was for a regional director opportunity. And I interviewed them. I did the first interview. And then the day of the second interview, literally 2 hours before that, I had an offer that came in. My offer letter came in. So I accepted it and I signed it. So I had to go back to the company that I had the second interview with. And I told them, look, I just accepted a different position. Like literally, I'm gonna have to cancel. I feel guilty if I'm gonna waste someone's time to just, spend 30 minutes or an hour knowing that I already choose a different path. And they sent me a feedback survey and I said, everything went great. Everybody was, very professional and nice. I enjoyed the experience of being a candidate, but I said, it took you guys 3 weeks to reach out. If you were to reach out the same day or next day and had those interviews, probably by now I would have worked for you if I was the person that you would, you chose to, to hire. But then because it took you so long to do the initial interview, the job that I accepted actually took 2 interviews. The day after I announced that I'm open for work on LinkedIn, I interviewed with a company president. That was on a Friday. And then she asked me if I would have the time to do the second interview with her and the CEO, which I did the following Monday. And that was followed by an offer. So it took 3 days to get a written offer for me. If this company could do it at this level for a position at this level, I think everybody could do it. we just have to find ways to, to make it happen, we as employers. Any thoughts on that, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes to people have to take ownership of their own what's become personal brand, right? You have taken it upon yourself to put yourself out there and take a risk and, like, do lives, do podcasts, just comment, make polls. I think very small number of people are taking that opportunity. And by you doing that, it allowed you to get a job really quick. And honestly, so when I left from my position, from my previous company, it was at a time where I saw the value in LinkedIn, but it wasn't yet what it is now, right? And that was, I guess, 2.5 years ago. So it's quickly pivoted to something different. But I just think that so many people don't realize about that opportunity. And I feel like we need to educate more of this industry about it, because we should be better networked than we are, learning from each other in a greater capacity, and just encouraging people to be more, take more risk in putting themselves out there. Because I mean, I myself, I'm not like a big, like, I don't love being in the spotlight, to be honest. My show is about other people, and I don't even really focus on myself being promoting of the show. I really focus on the show itself, but that's just because that's me. But as a result of how I'm doing it, I'm still becoming known to people, regardless, even against my own want, I guess.
So, Evan, I'd like to elaborate, to stay a little bit on this topic, because it's very important to me, and I think it's very important to everybody here on our call. The importance of networking. How did that help you? Like, give us some specifics, right? Share some stories, some powerful stories of how networking helped you throughout your career. And secondly, the importance of building a personal brand. And before I let you, speak on this, I just wanted to say for everybody, whether we realize or not, we're all brands. We all have a brand, whether we want it or not. And then when we don't work actively on building our own brand, somebody else is building it for us. Somebody else builds that narrative for us. So the question that I have is, do we really want to have somebody else building our brand for us? In other words, other people's opinions are going to be our brand unless we actively step in and we build our own brand. You disagree?
Yeah, I agree. Like, you can totally let people control your path, or you can take complete ownership of it for yourself. Like, yeah, you have your current job in your current place, like I just did before my current job. My last 2 positions, like, when the organization I was a part of was a nonprofit. We were acquired by another, but that was my own doing. I wanted us to become a part of a larger organization. And that all started by me using LinkedIn to get in contact with people from that other organization. I did direct messages and different things, but it's like I directly connected with the CEO of that organization, whom I did not know, and he responded. And I feel like some people think that, well, that person's not going to respond to me. And my answer to them would be, you don't know unless you try. So you have to put yourself out there and take risk. And my current job, although it took a really long time for it all to play out, I started in May of 2020 interacting with the current company that I work for. And I finally got the job in October of that year. So, but it was an ongoing conversation and pursuit, and a lot of it started through LinkedIn.
That's very powerful. Thank you for sharing. I saw a very interesting comment for Jenna. Jenna, would you like to go live and just kind of share with us?
Oh, the part of my
Yes.
comment again. I'm back on my flexibility
Yes,
topic.
please.
You know, because and this is again, there's so much more that companies could be doing to attract people that don't that won't change their structure. It won't change the work output. It won't. If anything, it'll increase productivity. And building off of what Lila mentioned, you know, part-time versus full-time. And so picking up off of that, you know, I think that a lot of managers and executives aren't thinking about those possibilities. Can something be a part-time role versus full-time? And there's so much discussion about remote versus hybrid. I don't know that I need to touch on that other than to say that I don't think we're seeing the flexibility that we could see on that. But you know, but again, it's what's possible. And what I've always done is, you know, too many times in my career, say a regional manager has gone to me and say, "Oh, we're losing so and so. You know, you know, they're going to go back to school or do this or had a baby, and they're saying that they can't work the full schedule, and so we're just going to lose this person." And I've always gone back to say, well, do they want to continue working? Are they available on a part-time basis? And can we make that work? You know, how have we explored that option? And usually the answer is that they haven't even explored that. And one thing that's come back to me, some people have actually said is, well, if I offer that to this person, won't I have to offer that to everybody? And my response to that is like, hey, why don't we deal with each person as an individual person, work with them. And if somebody else asks us for some other type of accommodation or change, let's talk to them and find out what that may be and just deal with everyone as individuals.
Yeah, I think the pushback comes from the fact that people at the very, well, I won't say just people at the very top, but management in general, you know, it's this type of uncomfortable situation of trying to make things work. They're thinking, well, the other person is going to want the same thing. What am I going to do then? I think there's middle ground everywhere, and it's very easy to say it's liability work. Like, if we do this, we got to do it for everybody. There's laws. I'm not saying that we should ignore the laws. Everything has to be within a legal frame of, you know, what we could do. But I think that there's still flexibility out there, real flexibility that we could offer candidates and our employees to make them interested in staying and continuing with us. It's a very easy way to say, okay, this is what we do here. Everybody either, you know, take it or leave it. And because the result of that is leave it. People are leaving. And then there's not so many people left around. So if we're really not changing, like if we're really not trying to do things differently, how do we expect to have a different outcome? Right? That's the definition of insanity. Lila, do you want to go live with your comment?
Sure. Yeah, I think I have a different perspective because I'm actually a Canadian and I had my children in Canada, and we didn't move to the States until, you know, almost 10 years ago. And I think because you get a year maternity leave in Canada, just culturally, there's a lot more idea of work-life balance. And there's a lot more part-time positions. You'll see a lot of teachers who work part-time. I mean, in all kinds of professions, you will see that, yes, after that year, they're ready to get back to their career. I was a social worker. I was really ready with both my boys, but I wasn't ready to go full-time. And when I moved to the States, it kind of blew my mind that there was so many women I was meeting, and men as well, but predominantly women who had master's degrees, some with PhDs, who were stay-at-home parents and could not get back into the workforce. One, because employers were looking at that resume gap as a real negative instead of hey, they've, just spent all this time really dealing with difficult people. If you've ever had a toddler, you know that no employee is more difficult than a toddler. And also that they've learned time management, they've learned to be more efficient, they've learned to be a really good communicator, all these extra things. So it's really an asset. And then the second one is their spouse has a really intense work schedule that often involves a lot of travel. And so a full-time position for them often becomes really tricky. And I had a lot of friends say, every time I think about applying for jobs or one of the kids comes down with a stomach bug or when, and I'm the one up in the middle of the night or having to go get them from school. And I realize like I'd probably be let go because I just can't, dedicate myself to my job like I used to before I had children. And so you've got this massive untapped population of really educated people who want a job, and they are living on one income. So they're willing often to compromise a little bit on the salary expectations in order to have the flexibility. And then if you're splitting a full-time position into two people, you're cross-training as well. So, and often that's kind of baked into the job offer is, yes, this is a 0.5 position, but when your counterpart goes on vacation, it becomes a full-time position as you're covering both for that little bit of time off. Yes, of course, there's extra pay involved in that. It's like being on call. And then when their counterpart leaves or moves on, they are there to train the new person. There's a lot of beautiful benefits baked into it. And a lot of the time they are willing to sacrifice on the hours they work as well, right? Yes, I will come and do an evening shift because that's when my kids are in bed, or because then I don't have to put my kids to bed and my husband can do that part. And, I can be fun mom during the day. There's a lot of benefits to that. And I think then you also don't have to have the burnout and the exhaustion because they're able to really use that brain. You'll find that those people are a lot more efficient as well because they want to clock out and get home to their family. They don't want to, sit around the water cooler and chat and gossip. And yes, that's part of it, but they really want to get their work done and get home. So I think, I'm on the Jana train for sure of, flexibility and how can we be more creative. But I just think no one's talking about this massive untapped market of people who want to work.
Well, I'm on the Lila train of that too, that there's this massive untapped market. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who's a neuroscientist. She has a PhD and she's now teaching high school science because that was the only job she could get that would offer her flexibility and that didn't look at that gap as a negative thing. Mm-hmm. So, there are people who would love to come in and be your weekend leasing person and, get a little bit of extra money and, be able to use their skills. And I think we could definitely look at making things a little more flexible.
I love all this feedback, and I just wanted to say thank you all. Some of you we never seen each other face to face in a live environment. I just had the opportunity to get to know you, and there's just so much wisdom and so much valuable stuff that you share here on this call. I think, of course, we're sad that Stephanie couldn't join, right? For a good reason. But then I'm very excited by the fact that, you engaged and, we just kind of established and we had a real conversation. We're coming up with real solutions. I'm going to make sure that, this is all recorded. So it's going to be on YouTube for, within the next hour or so. And I think a lot of people, they will choose to listen to the episode when it's live out there, when it's on the internet. They'll have, a lot of great ideas to learn from. So my idea about making live events for the podcast is really to have all of you engage in the conversation. And at the end of the day, it's not about me or the whole or the guest talking at you. It's about all of us having a conversation about, things that matter to us, and actually coming up with solutions that, will help us, will make things better, will make our industry better. So I'm very grateful for all of you. I think this turned into a great conversation. Evan, any closing thoughts that you have for us today?
I don't think so. I think it's been great to hear from everybody and their perspectives. I I do mean this. Like, I'd love to get to know each person that's been on the show, and anybody that has a strong passion for something. I even extend, hey, you can be on my show too. So,
Um, I just noticed a message right here from Letitia. Letitia, are you still with us? Yes, you are. Would you like to go live with your comment? It's okay if you're not ready. Yes?
I actually can't go live right now because I'm at work. That's why I typed in the message.
I,
So hello to
I,
everyone.
I understand. Well, hello back to you. I own and operate a valet trash and amenity company for apartment complexes. My question is, from a management perspective, how can a small business owner compete with larger companies and get my foot in the door and get in contact with the right people who are making the final decisions in a hiring process? Kind of a topic what you all are discussing, but I wanted to ask. So anybody has any thoughts? Trey, go ahead, sir.
Yes. As a vendor, I do have thoughts on that. We've talked about LinkedIn a lot. I definitely find LinkedIn to be very useful for getting, contact and information from that. Apartment associations are the second best way to get connections with people in the industry. One of the things that when Evan earlier said that people don't want to, we say they don't want to work, it's they don't want to work the way you do. And that's where things are changing. Technology has shifted so many people's opinions and effectively the way they're doing things, that the idea of going to an apartment complex, meeting with a manager and talking to them about what you do is not as available as it used to be. They're too busy. They don't have the time. You don't have the time you spend, the gas you spend getting to those properties is hard. So leveraging technology in that case is really important. And I find that's something that goes back to the issues with the changing of the way things are being done. When you introduce new technology into an industry, there's never immediate grasp of the concept and adaptation of the concept. It takes time to roll through that. And so this is another shift where people are going to have to learn how to adapt into that. I have two real quick things I want to ask about it. I've always thought this about banks. Why do bankers go to lunch at the same time I'm at lunch? And why do they close as soon as they get off work? It makes no sense to me, right? Why do apartment complexes do the same thing? If you want to, if you want me to come and see your apartment, why are you not open when I'm not at work? That would be like the best time to be open. And the flexibility of that concept would be really helpful. And I know lots of people are leveraging technology to show units without having to go on site, and maybe have a tour, have somebody who is a tour guide who actually walks people through virtual tours of units and is available 24/7. So if somebody wants to get online and see a unit and look at a property, they can actually do a virtual tour of it. So I think there's a lot of things that people are not seeing in what technology is available to do today. And a lot of the kids who are, I say kids, I'm 56, yeah, 56. And so what I grew up with was no internet and then all internet. And so it's like, I've seen both sides of this. And what people are dealing with is they're trying to use the old fashioned way of go to school, get a good job and get an education, get a good job and then retire. That doesn't work anymore. That's not the way things are anymore. And so the quicker we adapt to the things that are happening, the more effective we're going to be in that environment.
100%.
yeah.
And if I may, just kind of as a continuation of your, answering suggestions for Letitia, I'm trying to build here a platform where people like us today on a call, they just pretty much hang out for an hour, maybe every week, and we discuss, things that matter to us, things that otherwise we wouldn't have anyone around physically to discuss with. And I think there's a lot of good that could come out of that. You're always welcome to to return here. We have 4 more live events that I have scheduled for the next 4 weeks. I look to have this to make it very interactive and very like real time and very real conversation. I'm not here to to talk fluff, right? Let's talk about the real issues and let's find real solutions. I think the solutions are there. They're just each one of us has solutions. It's just about like making this platform available for all of us to share and learn from each other. I think that's that just could bring a lot of value to our space. In closing, Evan, thank you so much for for stepping in as a substitute guest today, and you made it all happen in 15 minutes, and you rearranged your schedule. I couldn't thank you enough. And thank you every single one of you that stayed with us, that was here with us today. If you felt comfortable speaking, great. And if you just wanted to be part of the conversation, but hearing what was said right here, I appreciate every single one of you. It was a different experience, unexpected, but actually an amazing experience. Thank you very much for taking the time today and be here with us. Be on the lookout for the video, for the recording of the conversation. Probably I'll have it on my YouTube channel within an hour or so. This was a live Multifamily Chronicles podcast, the second live event. I'm Adrian Danila, your host, and I hope to see you back here on the next one. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.